So our facilitators today, you see me here, I'm Patsy over at Atlas, but mostly you'll be hearing from Stephanie Sommers, who is our ACES coordinator and works with Minneapolis Public Schools. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are really excited to see so many people here this afternoon. We want to let you know how much we appreciate you taking time out to attend this webinar. Please do feel free to let us know if you have any questions at any time. You can raise your hand using your the controls on your control panel, or you can chat questions out in the chat box. There will be a couple times when we stop and have short discussions, but if you have questions at any time, please do let us know. So we're going to go ahead and talk about today's objectives and a few upcoming events. So the objectives for today, we're hoping that participants will get a chance to check in about ACES TIF and how it complements CCRS. And we'll be showing you a couple of new lesson planning templates that are aligned to the CCRS standards. We will be talking about some upcoming ACES and transitions-minded professional development opportunities. We are going to be talking a little bit about how people could share some of the lessons they've been TIFing through a website called OER Commons. And we also have a special guest joining us today from the Minnesota Department of Ed. And she is going to be talking about the Minnesota Career Information System, MCIS. And we're going to turn that over to her in just a minute or two. But before that, we are going to launch a quick poll. I would like to ask everyone to answer a couple of questions that you see on your screen here. You can see we're trying to find out what ACES related resources or materials have you recently been using. So go ahead and click in the boxes. You can click more than one. And we'll keep this poll open for a couple of seconds here. 12% of you have answered, 24%, 36, 40. Now we're almost to 50% of people have responded. We're over 60% now, almost to 70%. So we'll leave this open for another couple seconds, let everyone choose all those resources or materials. Okay, we've got 74% of people have responded. We'll let it go another couple of seconds. All right, now we're at almost 80%, and that could mean the rest of us are in presenter mode, which means that we can't answer the poll. So I will go ahead and share the results. Okay. So according to this poll, 57% of you, I have directed a staff member to the ACES resource library. All right. 57%, I have used the ACES 101 course for training new staff. That is fantastic. 38%, I use TIF categories to support adult diploma work. Okay. The largest group, 71%, I know at least one staff who has been TIFing lessons. That's great to see. And 10%, I have used an ACES or TIF observation tool. All right, so later today in the webinar, we will be talking a little bit more about those observation tools, and maybe we can edge some of you up there into considering using one of them, so that we could increase that percentage from 10% up to something a little bit higher. But it is great to see that almost 60% of you have had someone take the ACES 101 course or have used the resource library recently. Okay, thank you. We're going to hide those poll results now. And we will go ahead and have a quick chat. So using your chat box, which is in your controls, we were wondering if people could just think for a minute about how have you integrated ACES in your program recently? What challenges have you encountered? What ACES tools have you used? So if everybody would take just a minute to chat out a response to this question. How have you integrated ACES in your program? What challenges have you encountered? And what ACES tools have you used? So I know one challenge can be time, trying to find time for ACES when we have other initiatives that need our attention. Are there other things? Deb says we have an all-new instructional team this year and are back at the starting line in our efforts to integrate. Wow, all new. Okay. And Elizabeth Bennett says, my program has a drop-in model and we have not started using ACES yet. Okay, so even when you do drop-in, Elizabeth, sometimes we find that trying to get started with some norms and routines, rather maybe than TIFing your materials or curriculum, you could try TIFing your classroom by implementing some norms and routines for the students who drop in. All right, anyone else want to share anything in the chat? It's great to see so many people here. Sherry, as an RTC for the Southwest region. Sorry, Sherry. We wrote our plan to include ACES training to both new and experienced staff. Challenges to make sure managers and staff know what training resources are available and best practices. Fabulous. Okay. Allie says she's encouraging teaching staff to finalize a curriculum so she can TIF it. Chris says, thanks, Deb. You summed up our challenge. We have 5 new staff members and 1 easing towards retirement. So it sounds like a few of you might need to do some PLCs this year, might think about that, or having people do the ACES 101 course. Bernadette says we are attempting to correlate CCRS and ACES, and we have developed a Google Doc to make this accessible. That sounds great. We'll be getting training starting in January to May. That is wonderful. Okay, Astrid also mentions the course. Good. All right, and it sounds like Bernadette's used that course and it's worked for her. So just so people know, in case they're not aware, Leah Conklin Olson developed the course, but I currently facilitate it. So that means I'm the one who issues CEUs, tries to deal with anything that comes up in the course as far as issues goes, and answers questions. So if you have staff who might benefit from taking that course, do encourage them to register and let them know that I'm happy to answer any questions they have as they navigate through the information. And we'll show you the website for that course in just a little while. I do want to move on because I know Beth from MDE is waiting to share with us. So we'll talk about some upcoming events. So the North Regional starts this week on Thursday and Friday. It's going to be in Walker, Minnesota at Chase on the Lake. And then we have our South Regional event down in Mankato a week from Friday on November 4th. And both regionals are going to be focused on how to align a unit or lesson plan to CCRS and ACES TIF. So we are really encouraging teachers and staff to start thinking about standards-based lesson planning. And so these sessions at the regionals are going to go through a process that will help people fill out a template geared towards doing standards-aligned lesson or unit planning. So those should be some great sessions. We also are talking about the new CCI cohort. So this is contextualized curriculum instruction. And so you can see here, and maybe you've read about it in the newsletter, that this was previously known as the LaGuardia training. And LaGuardia came out for 2 years to do the training, and now we have some Minnesota folks who are going to be taking over the training as coaches. And we are accepting applications now through November 18th. Applications and a flyer about this PD opportunity are available under the Materials tab if you look on your control panel, so you can download them right from this webinar. If you participate in this PD, you'll be learning about backward design and contextualized lesson planning, how to make lessons and units more relevant to the work lives of our students, how to help them align with future goals maybe, and how to do career-focused lessons that also teach basic skills. I did the training through LaGuardia for the first year, then I returned as a mentor. And this year, Heather Turngren and I are going to be coaching a new group of participants through the process of learning about contextualization. And we would love to have participants from all over the state so that we can get a wide range of folks trained in using this method in their programs. So more information in your Materials tab. And then we'll pause just briefly and ask if anyone has comments or questions about what we've talked about so far. If so, feel free to chat them out, and we'll try to provide you with more information. But then we are going to turn things over. Where is the Materials tab? So if you look in my view, if I start from the top, I see audio. Then I keep going down, I see webcam, then I see materials, and you need to click on the arrow to open it up, and then you should be able to see that there are documents there that you can download. Are you able to see that, Bernadette? It's on the same, it would be above your chat box. Okay. All right, and okay. And other people are saying, I just have attendees, audio, and chat. Okay. Okay. Maybe we can work on that a little bit more, but we are going to go ahead and welcome Beth from the Department of Education. Beth, I hope I'm going to say this correctly, Beth Hakebo. Okay. And we are going to be transitioning over to give Beth make her a presenter so that she's able to share her screen with us and show us some of these resources and materials. So that'll take just a second. Please bear with us. Astrid's also reminding us that you'll receive a follow-up email after the webinar with a link to all of the materials. And there should have been a link in the reminders as well. Okay, other people are seeing that now. Okay, wonderful. So now, without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Beth. Please, Beth, let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. Beth Hakebo from the Department of Education. Beth is very graciously going to spend about 15 minutes with us today talking about a wonderful resource called the Minnesota Career Information System. Okay, so are you ready to go, Beth? If you're muted, you might need to unmute yourself on the control panel. I always forget to do that myself. Okay. We'll give Beth just a second. Astrid changed the materials. So, oh, here she is, so that they should be showing up now for everyone. She changed our settings. Okay, Beth, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for inviting me to join your meeting for a short period of time. The Minnesota Career Information System is a system that's been around for years and years, and it's very popular in the high schools. We actually have two products. We have one that's used by high school students and adults, and then a junior version, which is used for younger students. We had some ABE programs in the state that were using the junior program and a little frustrated because the images were younger people, and they said, can't you make something that's a little bit easier and also reflective of the people that we serve? So we worked with Astrid and her colleagues in the department to create a unique version. It's got more straightforward language, less density, and we're piloting it this year. I believe you have some information that you received, that a little bit about the program and then the pilot pricing for this year. So we're really hoping people will use it and give us input so we can make it even better if we get suggestions. So this is the site. As you'll see, there's many tabs across the top, a plan. We have lots of assessments, the interest profiler, career cluster, a learning styles survey, and reality check. I'll just show you a little bit about that. This is an assessment that helps people plan their lifestyle and their cost of living expenses to see if it holds true to their employment plans. So first they would select an area where they want to work. So we will say Minneapolis. And then it takes them through a series of questions, how they want to live or what kind of housing they want, and so forth. You'll see it has communications, food, transportation, and so forth. So the results, well, let's see, I'll just go through it real quick. I'm going to not even read these questions, but just so we can get some results. So I'm answering all these questions about health insurance and entertainment, personal care, whether I'm going to go to school or not. I'm going to go to a certificate program, and then I'm going to start with saving nothing. So then I will get my budget. So I will need to earn $37,000 in order to support the lifestyle that I've chosen, or I can go back and make changes to that reality check. So once I've done the reality check, I can save it into my own portfolio. So each user creates their own portfolio, and they can save the results of all their assessments, their occupations or schools that they're interested in, and so forth. So lots of different assessments. Then in occupations, you can look at occupations by career field, a list of occupations or career clusters. There are about 600 occupations in here. I'm going to look at the agriculture, food and nutrition, or natural resources cluster. It's a good way for people to explore occupations by looking at the cluster first. So I kind of picked one that I was interested in earlier. Oh, here we go. I'm going to look at meat cutters as an occupation. So now I'm in the occupation file, and I can watch a video about meat cutters. I can find out what it would look like, where I would work, what skills I need, how much I would earn, and that has the areas of the state as well as the whole United States and Minnesota. Where will there be jobs in the future? How do I prepare, and so forth. I can then look at programs of study that would help me get that job. But first I'm going to see if there's really even jobs available. So I clicked on the U.S. Job Bank, and I would go right to butchers and meat cutters, and here are the jobs. It defaults to Minnesota. So here are the current job openings for meat cutters in the state. So I'm thinking of a program of study, and the closest related programs are food services, so I'll look at that. Now I am in the program of study file, and I can learn about this program, typical coursework, things to know, and I'm going to find out if any schools in Minnesota offer this program. So I click on Minnesota Post-Secondary Institutions, And Minnesota State offers some. So let's see, there's Hennepin Tech offers one, and I can look at their program description. And then if I think that sounds interesting, I can go right to that school and learn more about the school. I can learn general information, costs, the financial aid, admissions, career services, and so forth, and then all their programs of study. So we have looked, we've bounced around in the occupation file and the education file because it's all linked, and so you can seamlessly explore these different things. Also under education, we have a short-term training program. And this is typically training that's a year or less. And so would be programs like auctioneering, different kinds of art, construction. There's all sorts of programs in here. These programs are all certified by the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. So we go with their information. Then we have employment, and there's a resume creator. I'll show you that real quick. So I have put a little bit of information in these categories: education, paid and unpaid work, and so forth. So I'm just going to create a resume using that information, and I can create a variety of kinds of information of resumes, but I'll build my own. And then I'm going to decide what to include. I'm not going to include military. I don't have any military experience. Licenses or standardized tests. So I update that list, and I'm just going to download the resume. And is it downloading? Oh. I don't think it downloaded. I think my computer is frozen. Oh, there we go. Here it is. Here's the resume that I just created based on a little bit of information that I have in there. So that's another tool that's available. Other good information about the job search and about how to keep that job, how to be successful at your job. So again, we're back to the portfolio, and a couple other tools that we have. We created some checklists. Checklists are a great way to use the program. If you have specific activities you want the client or the person to use, you can build them into a checklist. And we created 4 checklists. Typically, in our regular MCIS program, they're checklists by grade level. But we know that many people use this and just have a short amount of time. So we have a self-discovery checklist. This is if they don't know what they want to do, they could do a few of these activities. They just link right to it. And when they've completed it, it will show that it's been completed by filling in the date and filling in the circle. So we have a self-discovery one, a career exploration, education options, and prepare for employment. So very short checklists that are activities that could probably be done in a less than 10 hours or even less than 5 hours. The other thing that is unique in this version is we have a personal education plan. In the high school version, there's, of course, a personal learning plan, and this is the personal education plan. So the user can at any time look at their education plans and edit it right from here. It's gathering information that they've already completed on the site, or if they haven't, they could, at this point, add more information to their personal education plan. And then at any point, they can print out their personal education plan, and it shows the results of much of the work that they have done and their research and where that's leading them in terms of career planning. So that's the personal education plan. And so again, in the portfolio, they will have all their favorites. So I have a school, a St. Cloud State favorite, occupations. I have a couple of occupations, and I can go right back to them by clicking on them. Different programs of study that I've saved. It also saves their assort and assessment results. So I have a career cluster inventory and a learning styles inventory. And their resumes would be stored here and so forth. They can also save special files or links and keep it all here as their own little portfolio or storage container. So that's about it. I went through it very quickly, but I think you probably get the idea, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hi, Beth. Thank you so much. One question that was chatted out is if you happen to know maybe the approximate readability level of the tool.
Yeah, the occupational information is written at about a 5th grade reading level. The school information, like the programs of study, we get directly from many of the schools, and that's probably a little higher reading level, but I'm not sure. So a lot of it is the other thing is we don't have as much text as the other program.
Okay, great. So that question came from Pat Thomas. If anyone else has questions, feel free to chat them out. I also want people to know that in just a minute we'll be returning to our slides for today, and there is some pricing information because I'm sure some of you managers will be curious about that. There was a comment. I had my staff review the demo after Summer Institute, and based on their positive reactions, we signed up for a subscription. Not sure how much it is being used, but I was impressed with the Summer Institute class and believe that we will get a lot of use out of it. I built use of the software into my navigation and advising services grant. Okay, so that came from Bernadette. Thanks, Bernadette. That's good to know. Okay, and then another participant has asked, how does this compare with the other career site we used to use? Did the old one go away? So are you talking about the My Minnesota Careers website, Mag, or? Okay. So I'm not 100% sure. There was iSeek. Okay, so Mag says yes. So I don't know if Beth is familiar with, are you familiar with My Minnesota Careers or iSeek, Beth, or can you speak at all?
Yes, iSeek. Okay. iSeek is now a Minnesota State program, really highlighting the Minnesota State colleges, and Min Careers was the other one?
Yeah, I think it's my Min Careers,
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Okay.
But Bernadette, if your staff would like training, you should let us know. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, great. And then there was another comment. It was Southwest used transitions funds to pay for the pilot price subscriptions for 1 year. We are excited to get started. So Beth, would it be okay with you if we chatted out maybe your contact information, or who would be the best person to get in touch with for more training?
Let's see. I think we have some contact information on the materials you sent out, but let me give you our general number.
Okay.
And you'll get Deb Parkos, and she can refer the call to either to me or to Dorothy. Okay. 651-582-8321. She's the most accessible to get a hold of, but she will, if it's training, she'll pass it off to Dorothy or myself. If it's pricing information, she's the one that works with that, so she'll be the right person to call for any questions.
Okay, thank you. And so you can see here on this slide, this is just a screenshot of some of that pilot pricing information. There is more complete information included in your materials. Bernadette says that they are also going to get reimbursed for the subscription from our South Metro Regional Transitions Grant. So these are some great ideas for how to alleviate any cost factors. So Beth was so gracious to join us today. I know she's actually about to leave town, so thank you for spending this time with us. If anyone has more comments, Beth might be able to wait for a minute or two, but then she's going to be leaving us. So please chat any other questions out now. Or otherwise, I know Astrid shared that phone number if you need to get in touch for more information. But thank you so much, Beth. This was really, really helpful.
Thank you. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so now we're going to move on a little bit, and we're going to talk about content standards. And we're going to take a short quiz. Before that, I'll say Pat Thomas chatted out that My Minnesota Careers is still available. Yep, so I was actually on the website recently. I guess I can't really speak to exactly how it compares to what Beth just showed us. If anyone has any thoughts on that, that might be a useful thing to chat out. But the website is still available. So we are going to talk a little bit about content standards now. I'm going to launch a quiz, and this is just, I think, 5 questions. So we'll leave that up for a minute so people can go ahead and answer them. So we'll leave this up for a minute or 90 seconds while people submit their answers. Okay. So we've got a small number of people have now submitted their results. We've got about 30% have now submitted results. We're up to almost 50%. We'll keep this open for about another 30 seconds or so. Up to almost 60% submitted. We're at 78%, so we'll keep it open just another few seconds. 81%. And that was about where we plateaued before. We're at 85%, and that could mean the holdouts are the rest of us who are presenting. So I will go ahead and close this quiz, and we'll try to share the results with you. Okay, so to review, let's see. So it says the average score was 91%. So what smart people we have joining us today. 25 tests were submitted. The first question, what are content standards? 84% answered correctly. That they are descriptions of outcomes that explain what students should know and be able to do upon completion of a unit or course. Okay. The second question was, what are the 3 sets of content standards for Minnesota ABE? 90, oh, I see, and people typed in their answers for that one. For the third question, 92% were able to say a lesson or unit can only include 1 set of standards. That was false. And we hope to show you through some of our trainings coming up that, in fact, you can include more than one set of standards and that you should include more than one set of standards. Question number 4, you can't teach TIF skills and CCRS skills at the same time. 92% of you knew that was false. And CCRS has now replaced ACES TIF, and teachers should only be using CCRS for planning purposes. 96% of you knew that was false. So we were not able to trick you, which is great news. Everyone did a wonderful job with the quiz, and we are going to spend the next few minutes talking about some content standards and some tools for lesson and unit planning. Okay, so I'm going to close these results. So the slide you're seeing now is certainly nothing new. I'm sure you've seen this before. These are our content standards for Minnesota ABE, and I think that Patsy was going to talk about these.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Well, I'm excited to see those test results. It sounds like everyone, for the most part, has a good handle on what content standards are and the place of ACES and CCRS. But just to review before we go into our next section, we just want to be sure we're all on the same page. And so just a couple of definitions. What we know about content standards is that they describe what students should know and be able to do upon successful completion of a course, and they provide the foundation that we draw upon to build curricula, instruction, and assessment. So that's just the general definition of content standards. And then in Minnesota, we work with basically 3 sets. So we know in Minnesota Adult Basic Education, we teach basic skills of language and literacy and math. We also teach digital literacy skills, professional and soft skills, all upon some sort of background of content, whether it's life skills or occupational or something else. So in order to define those skills, we use the college and career readiness standards, largely focused, of course, on literacy and math. And then the professional and soft skills are largely defined by the TIF, the Transitions Integration Framework, and North Star comes into play to define digital literacy skills. So these are the 3 sets of standards that kind of form this, this basis for what it is that we do in ABE. You can learn more about content standards if this is new to you or members of your staff at the Atlas website. So down below there, atlasabe.org. If you go under professional and then click on content standards, we have quite a lot of resources available, and also this new thing that Astra's going to talk a little bit about, which is called the lesson planning template, which allows teachers to plan lessons and units with the standards in mind. So it's a tool to use that she's going to talk about further in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and click to the next screen, and Astrid, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Patsy. So as Patsy mentioned, we're really excited to share some new lesson and unit planning templates that have been developed. We've got 3 possible tools that you can use. There is an English language arts and literacy lesson planning template, and you're seeing a clip of that here on this slide. We also have one for mathematics, and also one for folks who are working in one-to-one or drop-in settings. That is an individual instructional planning tool for people that might be working with multiple content areas. So as Patsy said, these are tools that are meant to guide your lesson or unit planning, and the goal we had was to develop a template that incorporated all 3 sets of the Minnesota ABE content standards, ACES TIF, CCRS, and the North Star Digital Literacy Standards. And you can see on the screen here that we have linked out to those documents. So if you're using the electronic version of these templates, it's just a simple click to get to any of those sets of standards, and you can simply copy and paste. We also included another set of standards. We know that many people are starting to deliver career-focused instruction or are working within a career pathway. So we included a link to the Common Career and Technical Core Standards, which are standards for each of the career clusters and corresponding career pathways. So you may or may not use that set of standards depending on what type of instruction you or your staff are planning for. In addition to the links to the standards themselves, these tools include guidance for incorporating the key instructional shifts for that content area. So in the ELA lesson planning template, you've got information related to complexity, evidence, and knowledge, a place to record the quantitative and qualitative rating for the text being used, some information about the qualitative analysis, thinking through text-based questions and writing prompts. In math, there is a place to look at focus, coherence, and rigor, as well as the standards for mathematical practice. In both templates, there is a place to think about the academic vocabulary being used or the math-specific terms that are being introduced. So really a comprehensive approach to thinking about planning for lessons incorporating the three sets of standards. I want to emphasize at this point that these templates are not required. They are simply being offered as a tool for you and your instructors to use. We also recognize that it's probably not realistic for people to fill out this extensive template for every lesson being taught, but we're hoping that people might use these to document lessons that are being shared within a program or across programs. We also think they would be a great tool for helping people practice using the standards. So you might want to think about having staff either work individually or in teams to develop a lesson using the template once a month or once a quarter, so that they can try their hand at incorporating all of the standards. The first section of both templates is focused on preparing for the lesson, and then the second part of the template is focused on the lesson stages. So thinking about the introduction, explanation, and modeling, guided and independent practice stages of the lesson, along with the specific lesson objectives. These templates have been introduced to our adult diploma programs and our CCRS implementation cohort, and they were developed by our CCRS implementation team, working from a model we received from Kentucky Adult Education and incorporating the feedback that we got from the adult diploma pilots and some of the folks that have gone through previous iterations of the LaGuardia career-focused basic skills instruction training. So we hope that you will find them useful. Share them with your staff. If you've got feedback about tweaks or how they're being used in your program, we'd love to hear from you. And then just a reminder that Stephanie will be leading sessions at the North and South Regionals focused on planning using both CCRS and ACES, and this template will be used in those sessions. So if you want to dig in a little deeper, encourage your staff to attend one of those sessions. We can take any questions people might have. These lesson planning templates are all on the Atlas website under the Content Standards Resources page.
Okay, thank you so much, Astrid. So, and in addition to going to the Atlas resource page or copying and pasting the link here, these were also in your materials, so you can download them from the materials tab as well. And I also just wanted to say Allie Riley will actually be conducting the session in Mankato using the materials that are being developed for the North Regional. So Allie's chatting out that she will be there and she'd love for people to come visit her in Mankato on November 4th. Okay, so if you have any questions about using the templates, please do chat them out, and then we're going to move on to learning a little bit about OER Commons. So this is in response to people asking us or sharing with us that they would like some ideas about what to do with TIFed lessons that are being developed by teachers in various programs. So I know that some managers have previously shared that they've been putting together binders of those TIFed materials to keep maybe in a resource room. Another way you might want to share these TIFed lessons is through something called OER Commons, which is a website. So OERs are open educational resources, and they are meant to be anything from a single lesson to a unit to an entire Moodle course that someone or a group of people have developed and are sharing with others under a Creative Commons copyright license. So for something to be considered an OER, it has to, you have to be able to use it freely. You can modify, remix, mash up the materials, and you don't have to worry about violating copyright. So OER Commons is a website where a lot of these types of resources are being kind of indexed. At OER Commons, you can search by a level or a topic or a keyword, and you can find various types of lessons or materials. What is very exciting is that last year, Susan Wettenkamp-Brandt from the MLC worked with a group of teachers from around the state to kind of build up the repository of lessons for ABE specific teachers. And they have been tagging and contributing lessons to a group on OER Commons called the Adult Education Open Community of Resources. Okay, so in order to use OER Commons, you must create a free account, and then in order to access this group, you would need to join the group. And all of that is very easy. And in just a moment, after we've looked through a couple of these slides, we'll go live to the OER Commons site, and I'll show you some of that. So right now, we'll go to our next slide, a little more information about OER Commons. So to join the Adult Education Open Community of Resources, you would create your own account, and then if you click or copy the link that was on the previous slide, it would take you right to the page you're seeing now, and you would just click on Join This Group. And the purpose of joining this group is OER Commons is a very, very vast website, and it indexes thousands and thousands of lessons. And so to help you kind of narrow down on lessons to use in your adult classroom, you might consider joining this group here. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, we can learn a little bit about tagging and searching. So one of the great benefits of OER Commons is that it is searchable, as I mentioned before. So I used TIF as a search term, and then I came up with the lessons that you see here. And my friend and colleague from Minneapolis, Heather Turngren, she went to the trouble of uploading some of the ACES lessons that we had developed for the ACES TIF Lens webinar series, and she's put those into OER Commons, and she has tagged them by TIF and ABE and transitions, so that if you entered any of those words as a search term, you'd come up with one of these lessons. So if Patsy doesn't mind switching over the screen sharing, I can show you a little bit more about OER Commons here.
I think I've done it. Go ahead and try.
All right, I'm going to show my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen here. So this is OER Commons, and this is showing you here. These are some different lessons I have added. When you go to OER Commons and you want to add a new lesson, you go to the Create. You go to Create. And then once you're here, you use something called Open Author in order to upload or create, publish your own lesson plans. And so Open Author is a tool where what you see is a little bit like a Word document or a Google document, and you can either create the document in here, or there is a way that you can link to an existing document. And I think a lot of times people do a combination of both. They put into OER Commons in the Open Author, they would give their lesson a title, type some background information about the lesson to describe it, and then maybe upload a document that they want to use as far as a lesson plan, supporting materials, those kinds of things go. You can import documents from Google Docs in case that was what you were using to create. Another thing, sometimes you maybe find a lesson in OER Commons, but you tweak it or modify it to work in your own classroom. You can then share your modified lesson here so that people can see how what your take was on that original lesson idea, and you just add a link or acknowledgement of the original lesson that you modified. That's another way that people use OER Commons. And I'm going to invite Heather, who I know is in the webinar here, if she would like to add anything. She's also used Open Author quite a bit, and I'm not sure if there's anything she'd like to add or talk about. Are you there, Heather? Okay. It's possible that she stepped away for a moment. But this is OER Commons. It's a really simple investment of time to get it to get your account set up and to join a group. But once you have done it, it is really, really a wonderful resource for finding materials. So I'm just going to pause for a second and ask if anyone has questions. So you would write your lesson, then this is where you tag your lesson as far as who you want your primary users to be, what subjects, grade levels, things like this. You can add keywords here. So this is where we would type something maybe like TIF or ACES. And then once you've done all of this information, you submit your lesson to be published so that other people who are using OER Commons can find it. Okay? And if there are any questions, please chat them out. If Heather can hear me and she's able to talk, she can feel free to jump in and share anything. Otherwise, we'll go. Oh, go ahead. Heather, is that you?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. So I was just going to add that this, I feel, is very easy to use, the Open Author. What's really important is that you make sure to tag it or put appropriate keywords. For example, adult education or adult basic education, adult ESL, ABE, many different strands, and that will help other people when they are searching OER Commons to find your materials. It's kind of like using a hashtag, because sometimes OER Commons can be difficult to wade through the materials if a certain lesson or document hasn't been tagged appropriately.
Okay. And I know Heather participated in 2 different learning groups with OER Commons. One was through Pro Literacy, and then also with Susan's group from the MLC, so she's used it quite a bit. I've used it quite a bit. I think either one of us would be happy to give some tips to people who were interested in getting started. So if anyone has questions or comments, feel free to chat them out. And then we can go back to our regular slides, and we're going to talk about some ACES resources here. So that will be our next topic. Okay, so just a quick remaneuvering here, and we're on to ACES resources. And one thing that happened this fall, it was kind of exciting, first time we've tried it, was we did an Atlas virtual open house, which was a really kind of unique event where representatives from the different supplemental service grants that are kind of funded through Atlas and the different PD providers got together on a day in September, and we had this Atlas virtual open house, and we talked about M&I, we talked about EBRI, we talked about GED resources and project-based learning. And so anyone who is interested in learning more about those different resources can check out the recording from the open house, and that's available through the Atlas homepage. Okay. We are also going to talk a little bit about the ACES resource library. So it was exciting to see that over 55% of you have actually referred someone or yourself used the ACES resource library this year. So to get to this particular section of the Atlas homepage, you click on professional development, and then you select ACES, and then from there you would be directed to the resource library, which is divided into different sections according to the different categories of the TIF. And so you can choose, if you were looking to learn more about self-management, for example, you would click on the self-management section. Navigating systems, you click on navigating systems. So if we go forward here, we'll get a look at what that, there we go. So as many of you I'm sure know, the TIF did officially get reduced to 6 categories this fall. The academic language and skills and the numeracy categories have been removed to eliminate overlap and confusion with CCRS. The other 6 categories are still having new resources added on a regular basis. When a new resource gets added, we often publish a newsletter article to go along with that, highlighting the resource and talking about the benefits of using it. Okay, so that happens on a monthly basis, as we'll see in our next slide. All right, so I know that some of you have told me that your program or as a region, you're focusing on different categories. I know in the South, they're focusing on self-management. I know some other people have mentioned developing a future pathway and navigating systems. So each of these has its own section with its own resources. You also probably know that a few years ago we did the TIF Lens series where we zoomed in on different sections of the TIF. We have sample videos and sample lesson plans available for each of the 6 categories of the TIF. So this one, if you were to click on the video here, you would get to watch a 15 to 20-minute video about self-management, showing a teacher modeling some of these skills in an ABE classroom. There are also lesson plans at a beginning, intermediate, and advanced level that can be downloaded and used. These lessons plans are considered open resources. They can be changed and modified to meet the needs of a particular teacher or classroom. And then under those materials, you'll see an example of one of the resources. So here we see Schoology, which was a resource that I added in the late summer to give people some ideas about using it to build self-management skills among students. Okay, and then speaking of videos, I want to highlight that Minnesota ABE has its own YouTube channel. All of the videos that are created for training purposes, as well as archived webinars, are available from this YouTube channel. And there's new stuff being added on a regular basis, so that is exciting. Okay, the next slide shows you what it actually looks like here. And so this is our Minnesota ABE Professional Development channel on YouTube, okay? And then another way to find out that things have been added is the Minnesota ABE Connect Newsletter that comes out every week on Tuesdays. When there is something new in the world of ACES or transitions-minded instruction, we try to put information in the newsletter to let you know there's been an update or addition. So recently we ran a story about the CCI cohort, the career-focused contextualized basic skills instruction cohort. That name is a mouthful, so you'll see why we've decided to call it CCI. So these are some pictures of the final training last year, featuring one of my ABE colleagues, that's Katie Cheeky there, talking about the poster she created for her contextualized lessons. And so this is just an example of another way that we communicate information and resources to all of you. Sherry chatted out a link to the YouTube channel, so that's fabulous. And then because people have been asking for ways to work with their staff in these particular TIF category areas, I wanted to remind folks that we first introduced these video companion guides, I think early in 2016. And at that time, we'd only finished 1 or 2. And now we have navigating systems, self-management, developing a future pathway, and critical thinking all finished, those 4 categories. They are all available on the Atlas website. If you click on the link on the guide, you will come right to that section of the resource library, and the companion guides are published right before the link to the video. These guides are meant to be used maybe in a staff meeting or in a PLC situation where you have small groups of teachers maybe focusing on a particular ACES category. They take you through the different sections of the video and give you a format for writing down notes about what kinds of skills you observe. From the skills are listed on the left, and then the different parts of the video go across from warm up to, in this case, evaluate. Most of them have a warm up section, an introduction, guided practice, independent practice, and then either an expansion or evaluation activity. And the idea would be you would watch the video and write down notes about when you see the teacher modeling these skills or when you see the learners practicing these skills in the different boxes. So if your program has set a goal of focusing on one particular TIF category, 1 or 2 or 3 for this year, these video companion guides are one resource along with the videos you can use to facilitate that kind of work. Okay. And then we have just one more resource to share with you. I know from the question you answered in our poll that many of you are familiar with the ACES 101 course. Those of you who have new staff or you're working with new teachers this year, this is the ACES 101 course. It is housed in the MLC's online training library. You do need to create a free user account in order to access these trainings. Again, very simple to do that. And upon completion of the course, participants are issued 6 CEUs. You go through an introduction about ACES in general, and then you choose 3 of the 6 categories to focus on, and you complete a final project which is called a My Learners Transitions Map. Once you submit that to me, I review it and issue the CEUs. So it's a self-paced course. You can choose, or your staff can choose which categories are most relevant or important for them to focus on. And then you go through those categories and complete a small reflection assignment that would help you think about what you've learned in the course. So Astrid has chatted out, has anyone used the video companion guides? How did it go? If anyone has used any of the resources that we have talked about so far, it would be great to share that information. When we ask people, what do you hope to get out of these webinars, one of the common answers is to get new ideas from other managers and staff. So please do share any way you've been using resources with each other, and we'll read out your comments as they come in. And then that is, those are all the resources that are kind of new or developing. And then this resource, the observation tool, this was originally rolled out about a year ago during last fall's ACES for Administrators webinar. This tool was developed by Heather Turngren and I. We adapted it from some materials that we found. It was created in response to an expressed need from managers who were saying, well, how do I know that my staff is doing this? How do I know that they are implementing these TIF skills in their classroom? How do I know that they're focusing on transitions? And so that was the reason why the tool was created to begin with. There are links to this tool on the Atlas website. There, I do believe, is also a link to the tool in the materials section. I can double check that, but I believe it's there. Yes, there is a link to the observation tool in your materials. Okay, and so I'm going to read out a question, just take a quick pause. So Marty says, I have a teacher who is struggling with finding the videos. She can't answer questions without the videos. Yes, I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that up, Marty. I had wanted to mention that. We have had some video issues that started late in the summer. Just briefly, this has to do with the fact that the videos were cropped so that people would watch just small clips of them and then answer questions and then watch another small clip and then answer the questions. And the service that was used to do that cropping only basically it expires. It's time bound, so it expires after a certain amount of time, and then the videos are no longer accessible. So what I have been doing is, and there is, if your teacher reads the information on the homepage of the ACES 101 course, there are notes there. I've put notes or memos in several places explaining that some of these videos are no longer working and that you access them through the YouTube channel, through YouTube directly. And there is a link to a document, and the document explains what the start and end times are for each of the videos. So it is not as convenient as having them embedded in the course, but we have gotten some feedback from people who have used them, and they are they're telling us that although it's somewhat inconvenient, it is doable with that information. So Marty, if I can get in touch with you directly if you share your email with me and send you a link to this document for you to give to your new staff person. If you can chat me your email address, I'll send that to you when the webinar is finished today. So that it is a workaround. Thanks, Marty. The information is available on the home page. You just, I would encourage if your staff tells you they're having problems, to read the information on the homepage, and you'll see what the workaround is. So I know it's not convenient, but we are trying to fix it. So Patsy says, we're working on fixing the video issues yet. Our apologies for the tech hiccup. And again, it's trying to line up someone who has the technical expertise to do all the cropping and then re-embed it into the course for us. So that's what's taking a little bit of time. And then there was another comment, I think a couple comments I might have missed here. Bernadette says, we are taking the CCRS class as a group during a part of each monthly staff meeting starting in November, and hope to start the ACES class when we finish. So I'm assuming she means the class that's on the MLC's webpage. So that is a very cool way of working through one of those classes and kind of making it meaningful for staff and doing it as a cohort. Okay. And then let's see. All Southwest ABE programs are using the MLC ACES course as a tool to train new staff. We don't really have enough people to form new PLCs. This is also a really great option for us as we cover a large geographic area where face-to-face meetings can be difficult. All Southwest consortia are using the MLC ACES course as a tool to train new staff. We don't really have enough people. Oh, okay, I see that was just kind of, okay, great. Good to know it's being used. All right. Wonderful. Okay, so again, if anyone has other comments, we would love to be able to address those and talk about those. And now we're going to get back to this observation tool here. So the tool focuses on 3 areas of observation that align with both the TIF and the ACES process as a whole. So the inclusion of ACES skills, and so those are things from the TIF categories. The use of the ACES process, which is assess, complement, evaluate, and study. And then having your classroom as a reflection of your target environment. So the target environment is whatever environment you are trying to prepare your students to be successful in. So if that's a particular work context, you should be in the classroom as much as possible, modeling and incorporating the language, technology, routines, and norms of that workplace. If that is an educational environment, you would be using academic language and have some of the same expectations for the use of technology, routines, and norms as someone would in that academic environment. An example that I think kind of solidifies this is if you were doing a class for maybe future PCAs or healthcare workers, having students foam in and foam out when they come into class is an example of creating your classroom as a reflection of a target environment, because hand sanitizing is such an important part of being a healthcare worker. Then there are 3 categories for rating teacher areas of growth and strength. So those are part of the observation tool. And then we give examples of look-fors in each focus area. And then there's places to write on the tool itself. So if we want to go back to the slide with the tool for maybe just a second. So here you'll see the first thing is inclusion of ACES skills in the development of learning objectives. Now the way that you would use this is we would expect you might have a conversation with staff about their lesson plan, talk about whether or not they had ACES skills or sub-skills in the objectives and how were they chosen. It is true you cannot always observe this. It would need to come out through some kind of a pre-conference discussion. The 3 areas for you ranking your staff: not observed, area for growth, or area of strength. And then where it says evidence, this is where you'd put your notes to remind you of what you saw during that lesson that made you give that particular score or ranking. So if your teacher is able to articulate to you why they're using a particular category, such as self-management, and why they've chosen the skills or sub-skills they have for that lesson, that would be the kind of thing that would indicate they're doing well in this category. If they're not able to articulate that, or there doesn't seem to be a plan or a reason for including particular skills or sub-skills, that might indicate it's an area for growth. We have heard some people saying that the tool is a little difficult to use, so I want to just let people know again, before trying to do an ACES observation, it would be a great idea to review the TIF, to have that with you when you're observing, to have a short chat with your staff before you observe so that you know what it is that they're going to be teaching. Maybe get a copy of the lesson plan, and if you know they're going to be focusing on a couple of particular areas, to possibly review those areas so that you're familiar with the skills are before you go and observe them in the classroom. I would be happy at any time to answer more questions about this observation tool. We're going to go ahead and move forward here, and we would, if anyone has been using the tool or tried to use the tool, we'd love to hear about how you are assessing ACES and TIF implementation in your program, challenges you have encountered, and tools you have used. So one challenge we hear about is that maybe your district mandates use of a particular tool or form, and it can be difficult to merge that with the ACES observation tool. But anything you're doing to kind of measure or capture whether or not these transition skills are being taught in your classrooms at your program, we'd love to have you chat out about that. And I want to thank the people who have been active with the chat box today. That really helps to make our webinars successful. So we'll let you sit with that question for a minute, and I'll show you another couple other accompaniments to the observation tool. Bernadette says she planned on using the tool this year. That's great, Bernadette. And when you do, we would love to get your feedback. So we've been asking for feedback for a while. In order to facilitate that and make it a little bit easier, I actually put together a short form. It's not got too many questions, but if you're wondering exactly what we're interested in knowing about your experience using the tool, I'd love to have you fill out this form or pieces of this form. This form is available at the Atlas website in the same place where you get the observation tool itself. And again, if people are willing to use the tool and give us feedback, we would be more than happy to make changes based on that feedback. Currently, we have not gotten a lot of feedback, and so we're not sure what we can do to make the tool a better instrument or better aligned with what folks were looking for. So we have a feedback form, and we also have kind of a short version of the form that we call a lesson audit. This is just a one-page form that we developed. It's a scaled back version that we have thought about as sort of a self-assessment or possibly as a peer review. But this would be something, if you have staff who have maybe been TIFing lessons, using this audit form as a way for them to look at that lesson and then think about how well it aligns with ACES and the ACES process. They simply check yes or not yet, and if it's not yet for that particular element, then they could make some notes to help them work on that or strengthen it. Again, this is available in the same section on the Atlas website in the ACES resources, and this is something teachers can use maybe with their TIFed lessons to help them just spend some time in reflection. Ellie says she likes this one a lot. Thank you, Allie. If you've used it, we'd love to hear, or if you know of any teachers who have used it, it would be a great time to chat that out for us, Allie. Not yet, but I will now. Thank you, Allie. All right. And in the time that we have left, we're going to once again pause to have a little chat, okay? We are hoping that you might chat out for us one takeaway from our time together this afternoon. You will be receiving an evaluation when you exit today and also in a follow-up email. But if anyone has something that really stuck with them from today, something that was useful, something you'd like to try, something you want more information about, please share that with us. We are planning on doing a couple more webinars this year, and we would love to have high levels of participation again as far as our numbers go. And if we know what you're looking for, we're really willing to customize. So Bernadette says the templates for CCRS and the observation tool are great tools. I plan to ask one of my new staff to sign up for the CCI cohort. Fantastic. Thank you, Bernadette. Anyone else be willing to share some of their takeaways? We would really appreciate that. And then we will leave you with a couple of reminders. And those are that the career-focused contextualized basic skills instruction cohort, or CCI, the applications are due November 18th. Again, there is a hard copy of the application form and the flyer in your materials. We are very excited to be offering this opportunity and to be tailoring it specifically to a Minnesota context and thinking about our goals as a state here. So we really encourage people to send some staff. Deb chatted out, it appears Southeast ABE is on target in pursuing the online trainings for CCRS and ACES TIF in a regional PLC format for our site instructional teams. It is a slow process but worthy of maintaining. Yeah, you know, one of the things people ask us is to get ideas from other managers about what's been successful for training staff. And I think this model of going through the course together is a really cool idea, and I haven't heard that one before. Kathleen will be looking at MCIS more, as we will be using it this year. Also hope to have staff use the ACES lesson audit during their peer observations, and elements of the observation tool will be used during my formal observations this year. Fantastic, Kathleen, and we would love to know how that goes for you. Chris says resources for training and classroom application observation materials have progressed from the last time I looked into them. Thanks for everyone's hard work. Okay, fantastic. Mag says, I like the revised shortened observation tool. I'm going to talk with HR to see if we can incorporate it into our process. That's great, Mag. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So just a reminder, our next ACES webinar, which is not going to be geared just towards, you know, managers, but towards anyone who works kind of in a leadership role around transitions, or just people who want updates on ACES and transitions resources. That next webinar will be Tuesday, February 28th from 1:30 to 3. Okay. I want to thank you all for participating today, for being with us, for being patient when there were some small technical issues. And if you have any questions, I'll be around for a couple minutes, but thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful afternoon. I hope to see you at the regionals.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Stephanie, for all your work on this, and to everyone who contributed. We'll stick around for a couple minutes if you have any questions. Thank you.